Life is full of work and stress. Parenting can be a mess. Being a woman is hard enough without adding on that extra stuff. We'll cover topics of every kind. Helpful resources we will find. We'll even drink a bottle of wine. Join us. It will be a real good time.
Hi, I'm Amanda,
And I'm Nikki.
and welcome to Working Mom's Wine, where we drink a bottle of wine.
And whine about our crazy, busy, stressful working mom lives. And try to come up with hopefully, some resources that will help both you and us handle these topics.
That's right. And today we are again meeting separately. Um, so we each have our own wines. I've been trying to be good and hold off because I got a couple more Defiance Ridge wines, but I'm just going to have to let Nikki try this one later. This one is the ZDM Gold. And I was looking at it right before we started the podcast, and it's actually a wine that was made in memorial of somebody. So it says Zach Daniel Murphy was a ray of light and love to anyone who had the chance to hold him. Son of investors Dan and Chris and nephew to winemaker Murph, he was a blessing to us for 6.5 years. This wine is named in memory of Zach, who will
Aw,
always be the rayon d'or or the golden ray in our lives. That's so sad. I also
that is
didn't
sad.
know it was a 6-year-old until I was reading the description. That makes it worse.
Oh, that's gut
Um,
wrenching. I have a 6-year-old.
right. Like, could you imagine? I don't want to. Let's stop
No,
that.
I
Let's stop that
cannot.
right now.
Yeah, let's not. Or we will cry on this episode about crying.
Yeah,
So,
that is very timely. We are going to whine about crying. But the notes on it are hybrid grape, tart peach skins, citrus, and limestone. All right, what's yours?
okay. I'm drinking a box wine, obviously. It's called Nighthawk Black Bold Cabernet Sauvignon. Rich, bold, smooth. Boda's Nighthawk Black Cabernet Sauvignon is a bold, rich, and dark portrayal of this classic variety with intense fruit flavors, smooth, velvety tannins, and a color as dark as the night sky. This daring Cabernet is the perfect guest for an elegant dinner party paired with grilled duck breast or a roasted beef tenderloin. That sounds super fancy.
Get anything good for Mother's Day?
Yeah. um, Ari made a thing at school that talks, it's like a little booklet all about me and my favorite things, and that's pretty cute.
Nice.
And she like drew all the pictures in it and stuff. She also made me a little Ursula necklace. She took a string of yarn and pink modeling clay and shaped it into the seashell that captures Ariel's voice
So
and
cute.
stuck the yarn in there so it'd be a necklace. It's too small, the necklace part, so we hang it on the rearview mirror in my car now. And then she got me the card at Target, and surprise, surprise, it was actually a Mother's Day card that said
Oh, I
appropriate
forgot to
things in
ask
it.
about that.
It was actually very cute. And she wrote something lovely in it.
Aw.
And then she basically did what I wanted for the whole day, and she told me she wanted to bring me breakfast in bed. So then I asked her how she planned to do that, what it was going to be. And she said, "You bought me cereal, and I'll just bring up some cereal." And I said, "We don't have any milk." And she said, "That's okay." So that night after she fell asleep, I went downstairs and I put bowls and spoons and the cereal box on the table. And I opened the cereal and cut open the bag because it was all sealed and stuff. And I knew she wouldn't be able to do all of that. So she went downstairs in the morning and poured the cereal into the bowls and brought them up, even though there was no milk. And we just ate it like a snack and
Love it.
chilled.
Well, I got
How about you?
lunch and dinner made for me and all
Mm,
cleaned up for me. And then
very
Brandon
nice.
asked the kids, "What should we get your mom?" And Eliana was like, "I have the perfect idea." And it's kind of funny because we have separate bank accounts, but we only have one Amazon account. So he's like, "I don't know how to order
Oh,
this thing without you knowing what I'm ordering because it's your Amazon account." He goes, if it's okay with you, I want us to present it to you and then we will order it so that you don't know in advance what it is. And I'm like, that's fine. But Eliana had remembered a recent conversation we'd had, and I now am the proud owner of both the official and unofficial Harry Potter cookbooks because both exist apparently.
Awesome.
I'd like to know how many unofficial ones there are. And
so can we now do a podcast miniseries where you make stuff from there and I eat it?
yes. And the baking book. So there's 2 cookbooks and a baking book. And I got steak and sushi and breakfast for dinner.
Awesome. Oh yeah, I did get sushi delivered for dinner.
Yeah, we've had some steaks in the freezer that, like, since we use Butcher Box, they had a really good steak sale at one point, and so I am now getting filet mignon and sirloin sent to me on a regular basis. And the kids, when we went out for Brandon's birthday, discovered that they actually like steak. So that's probably going to come back to haunt me. But we cooked steak for everybody, and then on the way back, we got, like, Deerbergs. We got Deerberg sushi. So it was really good. Today, what we're going to do is whine about how as we get older, it gets easier to cry and be hormonal and look stupid in public because that happened to me a lot last weekend. And I just feel like an idiot. So.
And let's start by all agreeing that it's not just that women are more emotional. Okay.
Fair.
We have more hormones raging inside of us that sometimes express themselves as emotions, but men are just as emotional. They have their little tantrums and their hissy fits, and they bottle stuff inside instead of expressing it. So the argument is not that men are not emotional and they're able to control themselves, and we're not.
Right.
However, as we get older, the hormones do change, and it does get more difficult for us. So.
And more difficult to, like, stop tears when you don't even want the tears to be there.
Right.
Like, I cry at commercials. Or, like, I don't know if you follow Ryan Reynolds on YouTube, but he posted a very tiny, like a little over a minute video of they had taken some kids that are sick and shown them the If movie or What If movie, the Imaginary Friends movie.
Oh, yeah.
They were showing that to them, and it wasn't even like that sappy of a thing. It was just like, look, here's some kids that we showed a movie to, and then it said something like, some tears were shed, laughter ensued, and the kids gave honest reviews in the way that only kids can, and then it had some funny quotes from the kids. But when it said the part about tears being shed, it panned to like 2 parents in the audience wiping a tear from their eyes, and I started choking up, and I'm like, no, this is not okay. Like, it's not even that bad, and I'm crying, which is the whole point of today. On last Friday, we were playing one of our small group Survivor things, and they said, okay, everybody, put a blindfold on and sit in these stools facing the wall, and, you know, they made sure we couldn't see. And I found out later that this was a distraction, what do you call it? Like a effort, like a distraction effort.
Okay.
So she was trying to distract us from being able to hear what was going on behind us. But she said, I want you to think back to all the games we've played so far. And I'm like, oh no, this is going to be some kind of review where, like, we have to answer questions about the games and the order that we played them in or whatever. So I'm thinking real hard about all the games we've played so far. And then she said that everything was ready and we could take our blindfolds off and turn around. And we turn around and everybody's work bestie is there. And for me, they convinced Brandon to come up, and he brought Jack with him. So we ended up playing.
So cute.
I know. We ended up playing the newlywed game, if you will, but with your work besties. And that did not go well for the married couple. Let me tell you, we placed last. Everybody was like, we thought that you were going to win this whole thing. I'm like, nope. I sent that Mulan meme later where they're saying, like, all of China knows you're here. And I said, now all of knows my marriage is a sham. But so I turn around and they're both standing there, and I was like, oh, this is fun, this is sweet, whatever. I take Jack from Brandon, and then he like leans into me and gives me a really good hug, and it's one of those things where like he's tired and he's collapsing on you anyway because it's almost nap time, and I just lost it. I just started crying in front of everybody, and they got it on video, and I was just like, okay, cool. I was like, I haven't been on an island for 24 days. I see my family every single day. Why am I crying just because I got a hug from my 4-year-old? Then comes Saturday,
Okay.
and 2 of my friends at work get married. And by the way, best wedding ever,
If
because
you have a heart, weddings should make you cry. I'm sorry, they
not
just
not in
should.
the way, not in this way. Not with what happened. We're sitting down, and they start walking, all the bridesmaids and groomsmen down the aisle. And I'm already like, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. So that probably made it worse because I could feel it like
Yep.
starting to creep up on me, but I was still at the point where I thought maybe I could control and suppress. And I was not like this when I was younger. Like, I didn't cry over stupid things. I'm pretty sure the only time I ever really cried was like if someone dumped me or if mom and I were having an argument. Like, I was not a super emotional person. And in a lot of ways, I still am not. But
Yeah.
which makes this feel even worse to me. But they're walking down the aisle and everybody's getting all set up. And of course, it gets to the point where we know the bride is coming out next. And they change the music and they step out. And I tried so hard to suppress the tears that I snorted. And then Brandon looked at me and he goes, "Are you crying?" And I'm like, "Shut up." And it was not like the
Shut
little
up.
the little graceful tears that people have. Like, it was bad. But I
Oh.
definitely like cried a lot and then spent the only 10-minute ceremony, that's why it's the best wedding ever,
Excuse me.
trying to like hastily wipe my tears before anyone else from work who was sitting around us noticed how badly I was crying.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, it was a real quick ceremony, and then we spent the rest of the night doing the party part, which was fun. So then
Aw.
Sunday we go to church, and it's Mother's Day, and so they have a stupid sappy Mother's Day video. And Brandon did check,
those are intentional to make you cry. I
yes,
feel like.
and I was doing fine. Like, there was one point, what was it? I don't know if it was the Mother's Day video or something right before, somewhere where he expected me to be crying and he looked over and I wasn't. And then they started like showing these moms, like, the moms are talking about their life, and it's also showing them like do their little TikToks with their kids where it's like, this is what it's like in my house today or whatever. And I don't remember, there was something near the end where some mom was talking about how it gets overwhelming or whatever, and then you have a moment where it's really
Mm-hmm.
rewarding, and then of course I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm gonna cry now. So 3 days in a
Yep.
row I find myself crying in public, which I absolutely hate. I hate it so much. But it does say that, I looked up kind of some of the scientific reasoning behind it, but our
Mm-hmm.
ovaries as we age produce less estrogen and progesterone, which
Mm-hmm.
causes hormonal changes.
Yeah.
So,
And also, they've done a lot of studies that show that when you cry, tears have cortisol in them.
oh, I
So
didn't know
you're
that.
literally crying out the stress from your body.
Well, that would explain a lot too, because I am super stressed all the time.
Yes. And that's kind of my point of at the beginning. It's not that women are emotional. It's that many times we carry a lot more of the stress load these days because of the mental load and
Sure.
the emotional load and the physical load and the career load and the parenting load and and not to say that men don't carry some of those burdens too. We're not saying if then but or whatever.
Yeah.
There are certainly men that carry all those things, and there are certainly men that cry. There are also men that say women are so emotional and men aren't emotional, and that's why we run the world. And then they get angry and punch holes in walls.
Right.
So
Exactly. They just express it differently.
come at me, bro.
Right. We're all emotional wrecks, and
We're all emotional, okay?
it only gets worse as you age, and as someone who does not like to be emotional and definitely does not like to show their emotions in a public setting, I
Yes.
am perturbed.
I don't mind getting emotional. I am annoyed when I can't control it.
Yes.
There are times when I'm okay with being emotional and times where I'd rather be um, not a distraction
Hmm.
with my emotions.
Sure.
And that frustrates me.
Yeah.
And I've spent a lot of my life, as I'm sure many of you have picked up on if you listen to many of these episodes, I spend a lot of my time giggling over things in order to not have the emotional reaction that I don't want to deal with in the moment. If something makes me emotional or uncomfortable or I'm not sure how I want to react, I
Yeah.
will giggle over it.
I think
Even
too.
when it's inappropriate out of context. Like
Right. And that's
it's not good.
honestly a defense mechanism for women in general. But I saw something on Facebook recently. I'm going to laugh if you're the one that posted it. But it's
Probably.
Lucille Ball, and there's a dude interviewing women who are asking her questions. Basically, every time that he pulls someone up to have them ask Lucy a question, like sometimes he's doing it in a way that it looks like he's helping them up out of their seat, but also after they've stood up, his hand goes behind their back and he's touching them somewhere, shoulder, back, anywhere else we don't know. But she
Creepo.
says it's like shot after shot after shot of her saying, "Take your hands off her. Take your hands off her. Take your hands off her." And it's every single time. And of course, he kind of tries to make a joke out of it, and the women laugh. But one of the comments underneath it was that the women are laughing because they don't know how to respond because it's that same defense mechanism, or they don't want to show that they're like, hey, yeah, I agree with Lucy, take your hands off me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that it was also really telling that even though they were all laughing, she was not. So that was not
Right.
a bit to her. She was saying it either because she knew he was handsy or because she didn't like that guys did that to women in general back then. So it
Yeah.
just goes to show that, like, a lot of the times when we want or should respond in a different way, or we don't want to show how we're responding, laughter is just what we go to.
You go, girl, Lucille Ball,
I
for
know.
standing up to the
What an
man.
inspiration. Are there any times where, like, you got super emotional and you were just like, I can't believe I just did that?
Oh, yeah. Um, Sometimes I feel silly when I get emotional at Disney World or like
Oh,
approaching Disney World. You're in the
yes.
ferry boat, you're soaring towards the Magic Kingdom castle, you're walking down Main Street and you come around the corner and you see the castle.
I
The
definitely cried
nostalgia.
on the ferry. And then, like, the time that we went when, like, Lucas and Eliana were like 3 and 4, and we did the
Mm-hmm.
rope drop show, and they came
Yeah.
out to start singing, I
Boom.
cried. And I was like, are you kidding me? That's a stupid thing to cry about. What is wrong with you?
Let's see, what else have I cried? Oh, so today, Ari had kindergarten celebration, which is basically like their kindergarten graduation. And they came out and sang these adorable songs. But then, of course, the teachers come up and they share some wonderful speech they've written together about how they want to thank us for entrusting them with our children and how what a pleasure it is to watch them grow, and now we safely pass them back to you for further safekeeping. And like it was all about trust and love and growing children, and I definitely teared up a few times. I was able to be in control of it though, so it wasn't quite one of those
Yeah.
moments, but it could have been. And I felt like nobody else here, everyone here is taking it for the cutesy cheesy thing that it is.
Yeah.
Nobody else here is welling up in tears and crying. Like there was nobody. Or when
Maybe
I
it's just,
dropped her off at kindergarten and I started crying in the hallway on the way back, and all these little kids were looking at me like, what is this woman's problem? And I wished I had brought my sunglasses in.
a lot of moms cry at that for sure. Maybe it was because I did the bus thing, but I did not. But also, it might have partly been because I was super glad to be alone for a few hours.
Yeah, see, I just have the one, and I took her in person and walked her in and sat her in her room and did all stuff and then had to like say, okay, bye, and like do the walkout thing. And, I had never taken her to daycare or preschool or anything like that. So this
Yeah.
was like really the first time that I was dropping her off to spend a whole day with somebody I barely knew.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about how, if I was her, how scary that would be to me. And even now, I'm tearing up right now thinking about it. Like, that's got to be terrifying to spend your whole life with your mother and your grandmother, and then to say, okay, no, here you go, in a room with a strange adult you don't know and 10 or 20 other children. Good luck.
I feel like kids can be more resilient than we expect them to be with that, though.
Yes.
So,
There's
like,
definitely a lot of like my experience and opinions that I was putting into that will
right.
create those feelings that she doesn't know anything about yet.
Yeah.
So,
Like, I had to take Jack to my Survivor small group today. Almost in the final 3, by the way.
all right.
I know. I made final 4. The girl who won immunity today picked the person she's taking with her, and then me and this other guy are battling it out for 3rd place on Wednesday. So stay tuned. But
Ooh.
I brought Jack today because I wasn't actually staying at work. So I was like, okay, we'll run down. I'll do the small group. We'll grab some lunch, and then I'll take him home to nap. So initially, I was going to let him sit with Brandon while I went through the small group. But then one of
Mm-hmm.
the other guys that's still in brought his almost 4-year-old. And when they came into the conference room, I was like, oh, maybe I should grab Jack, and then Jack and this other kid can like hang out. So I told Brandon, I said, just bring him in here with his food, and that's exactly what they did. So initially, when my friend comes in with his son's like, real quiet and shy and like clinging to the dad and everything. And then I bring Jack in, and all of a sudden it's like they've been best friends forever, and they're connecting over Legos and Hot Wheels, and it's just like both of these kids,
Aw.
Jack will do that too, like on their own, are just like so shy and clingy. But then as soon as they've got a new kid to play with, it's like, oh, okay, everything's fine now. Bye, parent. I don't even care that you exist. Like, Jack will walk himself into Sunday school class now. He just takes
Yeah.
off down the hallway, and I'm like, oh, okay, I guess you don't need me to walk you to class. I think, too, sometimes it gets annoying to me that I am talking with someone and I laugh about something, or I start to get really
Mm-hmm.
excited about something, and it's not that I'm crying, but I can feel my eyes getting watery, and I feel like they know. They can look at my eyes and see them getting watery, and they're like, oh God, is she going to cry? And it's like, just like something my body is doing as I react to something. Or like sometimes you do laugh so hard that you do cry. And then you're just like,
Yeah.
no, I'm not crying. I laughed a lot, and now there's tears, and I'm sorry.
When tears come with so many emotions.
Yes.
It's like, you're happy, you're sad, you're angry, you're frustrated, you're grieving, all of the things come with tears.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating, but biologically impossible to avoid.
Yeah. It just sucks.
It does suck. It sucks. It's embarrassing in a culture that expects you to be composed all the time, and
Mm-hmm.
or it means you're wildly emotional and out of control, and how dare you, and like, no,
You're
we're
clearly either
humans.
in hysteria or PMSing.
Exactly. Oh God, do not ever come at me and say you're just upset because it's your time of the month.
We're going to hit all of Nikki's triggers
My
today.
time of the month to bust you in the face? Yeah, it is. Do we have hormones? Yes. Do they extremely affect our emotion and our control of them at times? Yes. But guess who else has hormones? Men. Guess who else cycles through those hormones? Men. Guess who else has emotions and feelings? Men.
I
So
know
just because
someone.
we've been raised to express them and you've been raised not to does not mean that you get to hold it against us.
Right.
Okay?
I know someone, too, who is a man who will blatantly admit that he has his own form of PMS if we really
Oh,
want to
yeah.
go there.
I think most men do.
Right. But he's just the one that's actually self-aware enough to be like, yeah, I actually kind of go through these cycles
This
too.
is me. Weddings are a big one.
Yeah.
When I used to be married and attend a wedding with my partner who hated all things wedding and marriage and commitment,
Foreshadowing.
I would get very emotional during the weddings, and I would tear up and cry happy tears, like, what a wonderful, beautiful moment. Look at
Right.
these commitments and these vows are saying to each other, because it meant something to me. So I would have emotional reactions watching my friends make those commitments to their partners. Yeah. And I would nonstop get teased for it, like, you're being ridiculous. Like, what is it? It's just a ceremony. It's long and it's boring and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, when I see people up there making that commitment, I remember how I felt making that commitment to you. And it gives me feelings.
Yeah.
I think sometimes the reason I don't have a lot of examples of being overly emotional myself is because I spent a lot of my life not taking care of myself and my feelings and what I needed.
Yeah.
And so I didn't react to a lot of things because I was so used to going with the flow and being the easy to please, agreeable one.
Because Amanda sure wasn't.
I was very much a keep the peace, after the mom and Amanda blow up saying, there's no point in the blow up because we don't have any control and we won't have control and nothing we say matters. Like, it's not going to change anything. So why not just be quiet and let the moment pass and be done with it, as opposed to egging it on? Like, but that's just how we were different in our roles. Like, you were very much
2, 9, 7.
What?
Which Enneagram are you?
6.
6.
With a 2 and a 9.
See?
Yep. I am the peacekeeper. So it's just been my role your whole life. And when you're a peacekeeper, you try to not have reactions to almost anything because you don't want to contribute to one thing or another, one emotion or another, one explosion or another.
Right.
You just want calm.
You just want everyone to be in the middle.
That's right. But now, having gone through a few, what I now admittedly will recognize as traumatic life events, I still my gut reaction is to try to be the mediator and the peacekeeper and the middle ground person.
Yeah.
But I will explode in an emotional reaction when I've had enough, when I have been pushed to the edge. And before, I wouldn't even do that. I would be mad and hold it against them inside me, but I would never say anything to anyone. And now, post divorce, when I get pushed, I will snap. And my poor first boyfriend was probably just really the first what do you call it? The first pancake that you throw out, the first experiment,
Oh.
Where it was like I would take nothing.
Yeah.
And even then, yeah, my friends would tell me that's what you're having is a normal reaction and a normal conversation within a partnership.
He was the tester pancake.
Oh my God, that's so appropriate. There's good reason for that when you know all the backstory. But yeah, he would do anything that I felt was wrong, and I just felt like my reaction to him was extreme, and my friends would say that's not extreme, that's a normal partnership argument, disagreement, whatever.
Yeah.
And I'd say I feel like I was very aggressive, and they'd say everything feels aggressive when you've tiptoed around everyone for so long, but it's normal. And so, like, I still battle that line, but I think there was definitely a time period where I crossed to the other side and became like too aggressive.
Sure.
And then now I'm kind of like, okay, finding my middle ground. But
in a way, you were experiencing the opposite of desensitization.
Yeah.
But also, it's very fair to say in situations like that, or like we can relate this to anything else. Like, say you're that person that gets hammered into their heads that you can never have a single sip of alcohol, or you're going to like be an alcoholic, which, okay, for some people that's true. But when you're using it as a scare tactic for your kids and then they turn 21, guess what? They're going to go to the other extreme. So it's kind of the same thing. You had that suppression going on forever, and maybe you did at times go to the other extreme because you were finally expressing yourself.
It's
And
an
then you just got to
overcorrection.
find that middle ground of like, oh, this is moderation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The constant overcorrection of life.
Right. Just stay in the middle.
Just stay in the middle. Stay in the middle.
This is our new running joke.
Unless we're talking about parting your hair, because I will forever side part for the rest of my life.
If I'm going to do a middle, it's going to be a zigzag. All hail
I
the
could
90s.
never figure that zigzag part out. I could never do it.
It was not bad when you had a metal comb.
I still couldn't do it with that.
You also have to like dig into your scalp to do it. I don't know if you.
Well, that's probably why I would.
Yeah, like I had to be. Like I felt like I was leaving. What do you call it? Like a ditch.
Yeah.
Leaving ditches
You were
my
digging
head.
trenches in your
Yeah,
scalp.
digging trenches. Thank you. That's what I was looking for.
On to the segment. Ari Alexa announcements.
Yep.
Are you ready? Imagine
ready.
this. You put your child to bed.
Set the scene.
They've had all of their YouTube time. And I say YouTube. She watches through an app that I control which videos she can see. So it's all safe. Don't worry. She's had her time. And she usually pops on the Alexa to ask for more time, which you deny, and then say goodnight. Every single night. Every single night. So you're lying in bed in darkness trying to fall asleep yourself. And on comes an Alexa announcement, which is where Alexa says this on every device in your house. I have an Amazon Fire TV with Alexa. I have an Echo in my room. And there are 2 downstairs and 1 in Ari's room. So when she does the announcement, you hear it like there's creepers in the house. And this was the announcement. This is probably my favorite one yet. I don't know if I could say it without laughing hysterically and interrupting it. Lemonade, crunchy ice, beat it once, beat it twice, turn around and touch the ground and freeze. And I said, what? And then she said, I guess so. She said, I'm sorry, Mommy. And I said, that's okay. I don't know why you're apologizing, but I love you very much. Have sweet dreams. And she said, YouTube. Okay, wow. That makes no sense. But the little lemonade, crunchy ice, whatever, I'm sure that's a little, like playground rhyme thing. Yeah. But I've never heard of it, and it made me crack up.
Or like the, what is it? Shoot. The chicken and bologna, something in macaroni.
Chicken wings, hot dogs and bologna, chicken and macaroni. Chilling with my homie.
That one. Much better than circle, circle, dot, dot. I just got my cootie shot. This time I want to put a little request out to the audience with some background. We have an open mic night at work. And last year I did a parody of Edgar Allan Poe's Nevermore, where I kept asking the kids to go to bed and they would say, Nevermore. And this year, I had initially thought about sharing my potty training story that I had shared on here with Jack. And then Brandon and I were talking the other day, and I don't remember how it came around to this, but we were talking about how you could use a lot of acronyms. Oh, that's what it was. I told him we were out of milk, which is OOM. And in the gaming world, that used to stand for, and still can, I guess, in some games, I'm out of mana. So like when you're casting spells, you use mana to cast a spell. And if you run out and you're a healer, you know, like you can't heal people until you get more back. And so you would tell the rest of the people playing with you, hey, I'm out. I can't heal you. You're on your own, basically. So I was like, wouldn't it be funny to do a sketch where you're using gaming acronyms in general or internet acronyms, and instead they have a different parental meaning? AFK, away from kids, things like that. So this is what I'm envisioning in my head. I know for a fact we're having our next open mic night, I believe in the fall. The lady who ran it last year, she came up to our office because she's in a different location usually, but she had come up for we have like an LGBTQ support group, and so she had come up to support the group for its monthly or quarterly meeting. And we ran into each other in the hallway, and she's like, hey, I'm really looking forward to what you're doing this year. I'm like, great, guess I gotta figure out what I'm doing this year. But I thought it would be really funny to have me and hopefully Brandon, if I can convince him to get up on the stage, but he's not usually that kind of person. Like back to back, we've got like little fake headsets on, like we're actively gaming together. And the one person is like a normal gamer, doesn't have any kids, and person number 2 is the parent. And they're still trying to hang on to their gaming lifestyle, but like they keep getting wife aggro, or they have to go AFK, away from kids. So I need good ways to change these acronyms to relate to parenting. So we already have OOM covered, we have AFK covered, maybe something funny for BRB, or I feel like there's a lot of other acronyms that are specific to like being in a rating group in a game that I can't think of off the top of my head. But anything that would be funny in a sketch like that, I'm open to suggestions to work into my script. So if you have anything like that,
comment below.
Yeah, I'll credit you at open mic night. You'll never get anything from it, and you'll never know because it's a private event. But
You'll get joy in your heart
yes,
from knowing you created laughter.
I wonder if I could. I don't see any reason why I couldn't at least get someone to record me doing it up on the stage, and then we could just post it, and you guys could see how it turns out.
Yeah.
Payoff won't be for a while because I'm pretty sure this is like a September, October event, if I remember the timing right from last year. But I need to start working on it. So if you guys have any suggestions to make that funny, the whole idea is that the parent will say the acronym and the person will be like, you know, what do you mean you're out of mana? You don't use mana. You use rage or whatever. And then the person would be like, no, I mean I'm out of milk. Sorry, I got to run to the store. I'll be back, kind of a thing. So anything that would be funny along those lines. One night, Nikki and I were watching Survivor together, and then Nikki pulled up something called The Circle. And
it's so good, guys.
An episode of the latest season of The Circle together. Do you know I check their casting website every day now?
You do?
Mm-hmm. It's down. And it's funny, it's a Squarespace, so I think they're just opting not to pay for it until they're ready to cast again.
Probably.
But, so we watched that episode, and I was like, gosh, this is fun. I'm going to start, or I watched the rest of that season that night, which was only like 4 episodes at that point. So then I was like, you know what? I'm going to start watching it from the beginning. Brandon comes home, and he's like, what is this? You know, but then they get into the show, and they get into like interviewing the people, and they get into the gameplay, and he's in. And especially once, if you guys are familiar with the show or decide to go watch it after this, once he meets Shoebomb, he's like, all right, Shoebomb's my guy.
Shooby.
So Brandon's hooked. We have to watch it together now. So I'm slowly making my way through the previous seasons. And on a side note, I was talking about this with my boss, who is a guy. And he was like, he's like, oh yeah, he's like, my wife watches, I can't remember if it's like a Real Housewives or something. It's some Bravo type reality show. And he's like, yeah, I walked in one day, I was like, what is this? You know, he's like, and then I walked in the next time and she was watching it, and I was like, does that one guy still have a crush on whoever? And then like by the third time he walked in, he's like sitting down watching it with her.
Elise Myers had a whole skit about this, about her husband, like, acting like it was crazy, but then saying, I'm going to go hang out with my friends, and, like, real slowly leaving and still peeping his head in the door to, like, watch the next minute, you know? Yep.
So I feel like,
they get sucked in.
It's really common. Like, at first, the guys are like, what are you watching? And then before they know it, they're like, humanity, let's watch this, you know?
They
So,
just hadn't experienced the second moment yet.
yeah,
Like, we get
exactly.
hooked.
Exactly.
Hooked.
So in the circle, you can either go as yourself or you can pretend to be someone
Mm-hmm.
else, because the whole idea of the game is no one is seeing you in person. You're only communicating through instant messaging and pictures, and then occasionally they'll have a challenge where you have to upload the results of what your final
What you
product looked like
decorated or
after.
made, or yeah,
Exactly, like the cake or a mannequin head with makeup on it or
painting,
whatever.
or
Yeah, they
yeah,
still don't see you. So some people will go in pretending to be someone else. And
the
there
little
was
catfish.
a catfish. And there was a double elimination, and two people who were being catfish got eliminated at that time. And usually in this show, once you're eliminated, you can choose one other person to visit before you leave. So they get to see you, you get to chat with them about anything you want to, game related, whatever. And then another thing that happens is you leave a video when you leave, and then everyone sees the video, so they get to know whether or not they voted out someone who was pretending to be someone else.
Mm-hmm.
So these two people who were pretending to be someone else were like, oh, I think I'll visit so and so before I leave, or whatever. So the first person gets into the apartment, and it's one girl and one guy, and she's like looking around like, hello, where are you, you know? And then the second person comes into the same apartment, and at first you're like, did they decide to visit the same person when they left? And are they
Mm-hmm.
both being allowed to visit at the same time? And they're going to figure out that, like, both these people were catfish. So we figure out that both of them have been sent to an empty apartment. The person that they were going to visit, or people that they were going to visit, are not in that apartment. They both meet each other. And then the circle, the internet that controls this whole game, or social media, is like, hey, uh, you guys are both getting a second chance. Here's a fake profile to use, and now you get to pretend to be this other person instead of leaving the game.
But you had to
So,
play together now.
exactly. So the
Yeah.
two of them are in an apartment together, and of course, that's probably awkward enough. Like, you're two total
Two
strangers,
strangers.
right? Living in an apartment together. Um, Different genders, which can be weird sometimes, things like that.
And an
So
age gap, I'd say.
there's an age gap for sure.
Yeah.
Um, and so one of the things that they do is like ask each other questions to get to know each other, or like offer to make each other food, like little things like that. It's been kind of cute so far. But one of the questions, this is such a long ramp up to this question. One of the questions was, would you rather go to jail for a year or go to jail for the time it would take you to complete a Rubik's Cube? And I'm like,
I have no idea.
that
I
is
don't know how
such a
long it would
good
take me to complete a
question.
Rubik's
Dude, she
Cube.
immediately was like, a year. I will do a year in jail. Like, she had no confidence that she could solve a Rubik's Cube on her own.
I would have some side questions. Do I have access to YouTube? Because they can
See,
teach you the patterns to solve the
that's the thing.
cube.
I think it's something where, like, it's just you and the cube and you have to figure it out.
Oh, a year then, probably. Yeah.
I think, man, I don't know. Part of
I've
me wants to
never
be like,
attempted to solve a Rubik's Cube. I've never cared or had any interest.
I mean, obviously I've played with them in the past. We grew up in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, they would lay around and I'd
Right.
wiggle around or whatever, but I
I
couldn't
never
care
tried to be
less.
serious about it, and when I found out that, like, you could do competitions and things, I was like, dang, I had no idea. But I don't
Yeah.
know. Part of me feels like I would definitely figure this out before a year. But then part of me's like, but would you really?
I'm not a I don't know how to say this. I feel like you'd have to like learn patterns and sequences, and I would not be good at memorizing that without being given the thing to memorize.
Sure, I think that's fair, because there's a lot of games like that where it's like, if you know the pattern or the sequence, it helps. But sometimes you can just
Yeah,
get, like, blind dumb luck,
yeah.
or like you don't.
But always with things that like where you're supposed to kind of just wander around and figure out what to do next, I've never been able to
Yeah.
figure that stuff out. And like you guys would
Like
play Zelda, and I would try to play, and I'm like, where do I go? What do I do?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't understand where I'm supposed to be. Like, I need someone to come up to me and say, "Oh, here, I need you to go to this cave and do this thing to win this quest or whatever."
That's how
Like,
I always
I
felt.
am not going to walk around and figure it out on my own, so I'm probably not going to turn a Rubik's cube on my own either.
I always felt that way about music and work. Like a lot of people will improv their music, and I'm like, please give me the exact notes you want me to play. And then with work, I want like a list. This is what you have to do. This is the order you have to do it in.
These are the tasks you're expected to
Exactly.
complete.
Exactly.
Women choosing bears over men forever. I'll leave it at that. If you know, you know. So, talking about getting emotional, this week in social media, if you've been paying any attention, there's been a lot of heat on Super Bowl champion kicker Harrison. What's his last name? I want to
Butker.
say, yeah, Butker. I want to say Buttlicker because I think he's a jerk.
I mean,
but
we can add that in.
So he performed a commencement lecture.
Do you want to know what my boss said?
What?
He said, "Did nobody proofread this for him?"
Oh, they did. The problem is this school in general is kind of a problem with these things.
Oh, I'm sure.
In fact, he got a standing ovation for this horrific
right. But like
speech,
outside of the school, like your public relations specialist if you have one, or
although
something.
I will say the nuns came out, the nuns who support this school because it's a Catholic school.
Yeah.
They came out with a statement that they do not agree with what he said and do not endorse any of the things that he put forth. So
yeah,
go sisters. But he said a lot of very sexist, misogynistic, and homophobic things in his speech. And there's been a lot of discussion about it on social media this week. A lot of breaking down of the comments he said and where they come from and why they're harmful, and probably some of the background as to why he has those things. You know, going through conversion camp will probably make you anti-LGBTQIA+. So
so regardless of your views on a multitude of topics, that was not the time or the place to say a lot of the things he said. Like if you're giving a commencement speech, aim that towards the event that you're at, and you don't feel like you have to go say little tangents so that the whole world gets to know all your little worldviews while you're at it.
Yes, if you want to have these conversations one-on-one with people who are inquiring about your personal beliefs, do it. If you want to have political debate,
right,
and you have this opinion, do that.
Or
if you want to raise your children to believe this thing and teach that to them, I hate that, but do it. You know, we're in America. That's what America is about. The fact that we can't force you to believe something and act upon those beliefs, because we didn't want to do that with the Catholic faith. We came over here because we wanted a right to worship as we saw fit, believe as we saw fit, and do as we saw fit.
Right.
As long as it wasn't a direct, full, harmful action against another person, like, you know, murdering them. Right. So the fact that we live in America means he can have that opinion and he can share it when asked or in conversation with his personal relationships.
Or when it's relevant. Like if he was giving a speech in a different situation, some of those things might have been things that he was allowed to say or express.
Sure.
But when you're giving a commencement speech,
that's supposed to be about looking towards the future, congratulating them on the hard work they've done, and encouraging them to go make wonderful things of the world. And instead, he told women that they've been lied to for wanting to do that, and instead will only find meaning making babies and getting married, which some will, and that's great, but some won't, and that's good too.
Right.
And my whole opinion and argument on the thing is that we have to take gender out of this entire conversation.
Yep.
What we need to break it down to is this is a partnership between two human beings. I don't care if you're a man or a female or you identify as a different thing or none of the above. All are good. You are what you are, they are what they are, and you agree to be in a relationship together and a partnership and to form a family. And when you do that, you divide tasks. We're either going to both have careers and both be household people and both raise our children, or one of us is going to go that career path and the other one's going to be responsible for these things, and these are the things we're going to share. And each person should get to do what fulfills them and gives them meaning and makes them happy in what they desire to do. And if you're with somebody and that partnership doesn't equal up to all of those things coming together to create a household that functions well, then that's not meant to be your partnership for life. You find the person that balances what you want and what they want, and it comes together beautifully.
Exactly.
That's all it has to be. And it hurts nobody. It hurts nobody. It forces nobody to believe anything they don't want to believe or do anything they don't want to do. You can be a totally racist, homophobic, trad person and find that partner that's the same and have a beautiful partnership and live your life. And you can come over here and be gay and adopt and make your decisions and live your beautiful life. And it doesn't have to hurt anybody. You don't have to say no to anybody. Nobody has to not get what they want.
Nikki,
I will
disagree.
never understand why people cannot come here into the middle and figure that out. It makes me so angry.
No.
So angry.
We must have only extremes, and it must be my way, or I get to be super mad at everybody all the time.
Exactly.
As always, thanks for joining us. I don't know if you've heard the news, but TikTok may be still around forever. So they've appealed
Follow us
everything.
everywhere.
Yeah, they've appealed everything, and according to what I heard, the appeals will take years to sort out. So we do have a TikTok and Instagram, workingmomswine.com, patreon.com/workingmomswine, workingmomswine@gmail.com. There's a million ways to follow us and get a hold of us. Please like, subscribe, leave comments. We want to talk. We want to engage.
Comment on what you'd like to hear us talk about. If there's a topic or a situation you've been in that you'd like to hear our banter about, let us know.
Absolutely.
If you have questions for us about our lives and what we do and why we do this, let us know.
I've always been an open book. That's why I'm on YouTube now. But yeah, definitely engage with us. We want to learn more about you. We want to be able to support the community more. Feel free to leave your opinions on Butker's speech below if you'd like. And we will see you next time.
But be nice, be kind.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah. We can, just because other people aren't being kind doesn't mean that we can't support our views without being kind. Does that make sense? I don't know.
I don't know. I called him butt licker. I suppose I wasn't kind.
That's fair. We can just gloss over that. But yeah. Anyway, we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.